I think what's nice too is when you do get to work with people repeatedly, it kind of gives you a little bit more room for error. Not that you want to make any, but there's a little bit more forgiveness because they know that you're doing the best you can at all times and things just happen, and so it kind of gets rid of some of that fear of like, oh, I'm going to mess up.
This is the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast, helping filmmakers who share a Christian worldview stay in touch, informed, and inspired. Quiet on set. Rolling. Today's host is Matt Chastain.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast. I am Matt Chastain, as the announcer said, and more importantly, we have back with us Chris Kiefer. I pronounced it wrong at the beginning of the last episode. I said Kiefer, but Kiefer's more interesting because it's one of my favorite actors, Kiefer Sutherland, so we can remember it that way. Welcome back, brother.
Thanks for having me back. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, man. Well, let's kind of dive a little more into. We heard about your faith journey a little bit last time. We heard about kind of how you got into Warner Brothers. I talked about like your IMDb page. It's pretty impressive. Let's go ahead and start off with the most recent movie you did, because I want to hear more about The Naked Gun. You are the video graphic supervisor on that one, and I'm guessing you got to see an early cut of the film. They had to send it to you to work on it. Have you seen the movie yet?
I have not seen the movie.
You haven't seen it yet?
No. I read the script. It's weird how it works out sometimes. Like if we're on a project and it might be I'm in it from pre-production all the way through post-production. I've seen it 20 times and I'll probably go see it in the theater or you go to a screening or something. And then there's times where I'll work on a project and I still haven't seen it.
You forget about it until you're scrolling Netflix and you're like, wait, I think I made that screen.
Yeah, like 2 years ago I worked on that. I forgot.
Yeah, totally forgot.
And that one was one of those ones where it came in really fast. They called me about that project, I think 3 weeks before we started filming. We need graphics and stuff. And it was just jump in, go, hammer it out. And then we were out. Like that, it was fast.
How many days were you on set?
I wasn't actually. So I'm located in LA. What we did, so a lot of what we do too is remotely. In that instance, we had playback because of incentives and things like that. So there's a playback groups out in different areas. We have Atlanta, New York, wherever. That was all shot in New York, and so we used local playback operators. Oh wait, no, it was in Atlanta. It was shot in Atlanta actually. The team that we were using was in Atlanta, and so we used a local playback operators in Atlanta. And so what we do is we designed everything out here or wherever we are, and then send all the assets to them on set, and then they play it back.
So they put you at a bit of an arm's length from the project, so that it's hard for you to get in there and know really how well they pulled that off. I was just fascinated to see how they could pull that kind of humor off. Again, it was so specific to that late 70s, early 80s that.
Yeah, I had my doubts too. And I was like, I didn't know how I felt seeing Liam in there. I was like, really? I don't know. Like, it was just me, I'm thinking like, does that work? Having Liam and reading the script, I was trying to picture it and I couldn't really, but from what I've seen, it's doing really well. And people are just thinking it's hilarious. I'm definitely going to watch it.
He might be the only one who could do it. I saw him and this is not a Faith and Family film that you should see, but there's an outtake from the movie Ted where he comes into the grocery store and Ted's checking him out and he's talking about, I'm buying these tricks, but I'm told they are for kids. Will there be any problems? And it's such a funny clip, and after having seen that, I knew he was the only guy who could pull the Leslie Nielsen off. But
it's that him believing that it's not funny, that reality
that's right.
of this is normal, and that's hard to do.
And
I think he pulled it off well.
I'd have a stupid grin on my face the entire time, so I'm not sure that I would be the actor for that. But anyway, we've gone into a rabbit hole now. So what are some of the films that have just kind of inspired you the most? Like when you're doing what part of your job, do you feel like you're really in the flow and you're loving designing graphics? Is it when you're, it's a giant LED wall and there's spaceship and screens everywhere, or what is it that really, really gets you going and makes you excited about a project?
I think at the beginning it would have been the bigger and cooler it was, but I think as I've done this long enough where to me it's the crew. When you get that crew that's just in it makes everything better. Even if it's just a show that's, we're just doing phones and like it's people on Instagram, like kind of boring stuff, right? But like when that crew's on, it's on. And so a lot of the experiences I've had that were my favorite was when you're on a crew like that. And one that comes to my head is Interstellar. That was probably one of my favorite times on set. Living in those spaceships for, the weeks that we were in there. And the drive was the worst ever. But I thought we'd shoot it at WB. I was like, great, I'm already there. And then we ended up shooting a lot of it over at Sony, and that's through the 405, and it's, 3-hour drive. So I ended up sleeping in my car or on some couches a lot. But That film, it was a whole different experience. And because the other thing too is like I've worked on a lot of films, most of them shoot all digital. And so when you get onto a film set where they're shooting film and IMAX and it's a different vibe too, like it's weird when that camera starts rolling and it's film and you watch the performances light up. It's like, cause it's more permanent in a way. It's weird. I know it's not, but it is in a way when you hear that film camera, it just starts rolling and it's film. I don't know. And the preparation for it is different than digital. And the crews are definitely different. Most of them are, have been around for a long time. And so the professionalism and the detail, everything that's there, and it's all there, especially in camera too. Like Chris loves shooting everything in camera.
Yeah.
So like on Interstellar, like even when you're looking outside of the spaceships, you see a black hole. That was in camera. We had these gigantic projectors that were doubled up on top of each other, shooting on a wall outside of the spaceships. And like everything is there in camera. It's crazy when you're there doing all that.
I mean, is that intimidating walking into a Christopher Nolan set? That guy is,
Yeah.
he's not a bad director. I see a future for him.
It definitely is, and I think that's what I liked about that project was from the very beginning when I got on that one, meeting the art department. It started with them, meeting over at the lot, reading the script and going through everything. And then when you see the detail and everything that's put into that project, you walk and you're like, oh, I want to contribute to this. It's, it's not just another job, and what we do is tell some of that story, or we are a part of that character, like Tar's in the show. I mean, he's a cube robot, right? Like you got to bring something to life with him, and building the screens on his face or chest or whatever you want to call it, all the cockpits, any type of techy stuff you see in there. We've made all those things, and it's sometimes it's just texture, and then sometimes it's telling a story on a show. Well, we could tangent off of it, right? Like Westworld was a TV show, which so much of the story is told off the technology with the tablets and how it all works. Cause it's robots and tech and future and sci-fi. And so what you're designing is a character in that show where you have to do a big reveal on a tablet, or you have to tell some type of story that the audience has to grasp within like that 1 second we cut to a tablet.
100%. I want to go back to set culture here for a second, because you're talking about how that can be the most fulfilling part of it, is when you're part of a good set culture. Who do you feel kind of is most responsible in terms of roles for kind of developing that set culture? I mean, is it the producers and directors pretty much, or do you feel like it's a crew that has worked together enough that they've got a good set culture? I find it comes a lot of times from the AD down, because that's who most of the crew is really interfacing with, is the AD. So where do you see kind of when you step onto a set and you say, gosh, this is a good culture, where do you feel like that kind of spawns from?
I think the leadership will set the tone. But I've worked on stuff where I've worked with other people I've previously worked with. And so like, even if the leadership isn't good, we'll watch out for each other.
Okay.
Because we've worked together. But when all random new crew, like it's all different people and the leadership's terrible, it usually is bad from the start. But when you've got a great leader, even when you're working with people you've never worked with before, it sets it up for, success. But I think it depends on the project, because I've had projects where even though you think the director is the leader, it's usually a producer or maybe the writer or the showrunner, right? So you might have a TV show that there's a showrunner in charge, but you have a director. So you still got to appeal to the director for that episode, but in the end, it's the showrunners. That's the person in charge, or the producers or whoever, depending on the project. And when they set that tone, that's going to kind of give you the crew based on that setup.
Yeah, I was on a Walking Dead shoot one day, and I just happened to be sitting next to Greg Nicotero, and he's both, I think he served as showrunner for a while. He directed a bunch of them. Obviously, he's the makeup guy, but you could tell that he was the tone for that show.
Yeah,
100%. And he just
you can tell who it is when you're on the project.
You can tell who the alpha is, and he scared the mess out of all of us.
Yeah, I think what's nice too is when you do get to work with people repeatedly, it kind of gives you a little bit more room for error. Not that you want to make any, but there's a little bit more forgiveness, because they know that you're doing the best you can at all times, and things just happen, and so it kind of gets rid of some of that fear of like, oh, I'm going to mess up, because I've done it, when they're rolling that film, it's not a delete button, it's a film, and they're like cue playback, and then Chris's playback doesn't work. And so everyone just stops and waits for you. So
inevitably, my computer froze. It's like anytime you're doing a presentation of a daggone PowerPoint in front of 500 people, worked perfectly the entire time you're rehearsing. But then when it's live, it always freezes.
Every single time. And then especially on a film set, right? Like we try to do everything wired as much as possible, because now on film sets, there's so many devices that are wireless, and it's always fine. We, like I said, run it through rehearsals, setting it up, it's queuing, everything's perfect. They say action, and then like all the electronics come on, everyone's running, and your signal's gone, and then nothing works.
Yep, the boom op's mad at you because his signal's being interfered with. Yeah, that sounds very familiar to me.
The fan kicked on the computer, it's too loud, or something.
Yep.
It doesn't matter, right? Like, things are completely out of your control. It doesn't matter. Things happen.
All right, let me ask you this. I don't know about you, but me and my filmmaker buddies, the day that the Google, what is their new AI video generator, the day that came out and we started seeing some people release things they had created just with prompts, it kind of was haunting for a lot of my filmmaker buddies and I. Not that that's what we have to compete with at the moment, but we can tell what's coming. And so for you, what do you feel like? Where's the industry going? Is AI going to take our jobs like everybody says, or are there going to be fewer jobs because there's going to be fewer people kind of programming and prompting the AI? Or what do you see the future of filmmakers with the onslaught of AI?
I mean, there's no way to really, I wouldn't say I can predict it or tell you where it's going to go. I could say what I've seen and kind of the response and the reactions people have had. A lot of people are worried about it, and I think it can affect a lot of different types of jobs in the film industry for sure. I spent a lot of time, I worked with a startup company with AI because I wanted to know about it. So I wanted to know, basically I was like, who's coming for my job, right? So I ended up as a consultant on a AI company that was coming up and doing that exact same thing, because I wanted to know what it can do. And there's still a lot of limitations. Yeah, I'm sure at some point it will break all those, right? Like right now, I mean, it's incredible what it can do. You just shoot yourself on a phone, acting out whatever you want, and then swap out yourself for, a medieval character, whatever. And it's matching your lines and your dialogue, and it's doing all these incredible things, which is cool. But like, I don't know. I think there's a group of people, there's like the filmmakers who are like, it'll never replace film. It'll never replace it. And I don't think it will. It is concerning but some people are okay. Like, because there's things about AI that, like, obviously the process is hard, and I'm sure it'll get better. But like, if you're doing, like, say, visual effects on something and you want to like change something, right? You can get very detailed and granular about your changes, and AI, change this, and then it changes everything. You're like, no. Consistency. I need to change. And so like there's a lot of those, but I'm sure that'll change too, and it'll get very fine tuned and things like that. But I think there's something about the entire creative process from having a good story, right? That all starts from a story, right? If you don't have a good story to tell, it doesn't matter how you shoot it, it's going to suck. And so like, if you have a good story and you get those people that are so good at their crafts to come together, there's a life in that product that you don't get in AI. I haven't seen it. Plus, it's like, I think as a filmmaker, what I get out of making the film is important too, not just the final product. And using AI to make a film, to me, isn't as fun as making a film. And it was incredibly hard and it's costly and a lot more things involved, but that process and journey of doing it is so much more fulfilling than just running it through prompts for me. But
I totally agree. There's something magical about it.
Yeah. And I think as a tool, it's incredible. I mean, I use it as a tool daily all the time. And And I think it can help you in many ways as a filmmaker and make you faster in some areas or cut out some things that would normally take a long time to do. And I think there's a way to use it creatively as a tool to enhance what you do. And so like getting behind it in that sense, sure, but it's just a replacement tool. No, but I mean, it'll replace, and people are going to make little shorts and movies with it, but it doesn't mean I'm going to watch it or people are going to want to watch it.
Yeah, that's what I hope that producers can keep in mind is that, like you say, there's a life to it when humans come together to tell a story. And I'm afraid that if we cause AI so cheap that they're going to go down that road so much more often, and there's going to be even fewer jobs within the film industry, and the products are going to be just less authentic. And I wonder how long, or at what point AI can actually take that kind of a Turing test where it fools us, and as viewers, we can't tell the difference. That's what I think that'll last longer than we think, because we have an instinct to know when something's authentic.
Yeah, and when you see something, it might look real, like photoreal, I guess I could say.
Right.
But like I said, that life, I guess, behind it, or that there's something behind it. When you're on a set and you see, all these people come together, you're in the actual element, right? The actor, actress is there doing or performing, and you're in that moment. And then I think that plus like that spontaneity of somebody, oh, because of where we're at, the timing, this, and these things just happen on set, these little moments, these magical moments, right?
Yep.
Like you can't recreate that or think ahead of it to
Yep.
recreate those moments and things like that with AI. And then even if you train it to do that, it's still going to just copy what it knows.
That's right. It's Dr. Spock. It's all logic.
Yeah.
Well, plus there's a reason that somebody like Christopher Nolan uses practical almost exclusively for effects and that kind of thing, because practical effects still, we can tell there's an authenticity to them that don't come even with the best CGI.
Yeah, I mean, there's been times where they call me on set. In Westworld, it was one of those things where we had these like tablets that were like trifold tablets and stuff that were data and stuff on them. And they were like super thin, like a little tiny sheet of metal, right? But they look really cool when you add them in visual effects and stuff. But obviously we can't do practical playback on those. So now the actors now have to like act like they know what they're doing. And it never looks right when you just hand an actor a tablet and you like just fake it, right? And so they were very good about all those things where I would come to set and I would literally map out physically on the tablet, like where he's going to gesture, what he's going to do, why he's doing it, and all these things. And I would show him a pre-designed element. And so like, even though you can't do it in camera, you're still thinking that through, right? So that the actor knows what they have to do, why they're doing it. And then when they're performing their scene, it just looks so much better because they're in the moment versus just figure it out, you know?
Absolutely. Well, I want to bring up a topic now that I think I want to bring it up almost as a challenge, both to you and to other Christian filmmakers who I think there's a gap that needs to be filled. And perhaps you are the guy for that.
Yep.
Take your media mountain with Content Christian Media Conference. Join hundreds of filmmakers, actors, screenwriters, podcasters, and authors on September 22nd to 26th at the 40-acre Christian Film Studio, Capernaum Studios in Poolville, Texas. New this year, hands-on training in acting, writing, cinematography, editing, AI, VFX, and more. Grow in your craft with over 45 workshops. Also new this year, a full-day networking event specifically designed to help you make meaningful connections, grow your community, and build your team. Christian Media Conference has a 5-star rating. Go to christianmediaconference.com and discover the long list of world-class speakers, workshops, boot camps, and more. That's christianmediaconference.com.
That's awesome.
A lot of what you do is sci-fi based because like you talk about graphics and screens and spaceships and things like that. There aren't a lot of stories set in the future that bring a Christian worldview to it. And I think that's a giant mistake and a giant gap because I don't know about you, but I'm not willing to secede to the future that Christian worldviews don't exist in the future.
Exactly.
We need to tell stories in which Christians still exist in the year 2100 if Jesus hadn't come back by then. So I don't know why we've kind of stayed away from that. Maybe it's simple cost, that it's the Christian market responds better to biblical stories, or if it's taking too much of a leap into the future. I don't know. Is it hard to stay true to the Bible if you're kind of projecting into the future? But where do you see that?
I love that topic, actually. I've got a few things I'm writing and doing right now because I think there's a lot of things you can explore, right? That not just because there's graphic work involved, but like, you know, in the future, right? Like you can ask questions that are they're biblical that could be set in a sci-fi setting, right? Like people start replacing their body to the point where they're fully mechanical. Like, are they still a human being? You know, is there a soul in that person? Like there's a lot of questions you can ask in that type of a setting and theme. And I think we never really explore, and I don't know why they don't explore that too much. That's something I really would like to do. I did, you know, obviously there is a big gap between funding and stuff like that for Christian films. And I don't know if that's a big reason why, or maybe they just don't know how to do it. And that was part of the thing. Like, that's why I was jumping on these networking and stuff like, hey, this is what we do. How can we help you guys do that? You know, and I want to bring that to this. And yeah, I don't know if it's just a category that's not really explored or whether it's cost or what. Yeah.
I think it should be, though. I think it should be. I try to keep my kids as much as possible, and I'm failing every day at it, but I try to keep them at least limited in these digital worlds, you know, in the Roblox universe and things like that, because, you know, I tell them, because these are human-created worlds, these simulations, the Matrix, God's not in there. God's in the real world that he created. And so if we live in these digital worlds and these simulations, are we really able to honor God and live for him in those worlds? And so, as we move into the future, that's kind of unfortunately, what I see in a lot of the futuristic sci-fi is that where's God? I think as we move into this scary future where AI could be taking us over and where, this transhumanism movement, I think we kind of need God in there more so than ever.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of things, especially with where technology is going, right? Like, how is that going to affect us? And how does that work in the world, and how do we deal with those types of things that are coming up? And there's a lot of really good topics you can play into in that realm of sci-fi and science fiction and those types of things. And we try to, like you said, same thing with the kids, right? Trying to keep them aligned in what they're looking at, what they're doing. And it's funny, like our kids, we're doing the best we can, and like they'll watch a movie and they're like, hey, what I noticed? They kind of took that from the Bible. They took that. I'm like, yeah, I mean, most of these stories you see are going to do that. And we were watching, Transformers, Transformers 1. And I remember, the kids were watching it and, well, I guess spoilers. I don't know if we're allowed to do that on here, but there's a scene where like a character basically like is willing to like sacrifice himself, and because of that he comes back and then he saves. Then these floodgates open and there's all these little like thematic things in there, and she just starts calling them out, and I'm just like, okay,
They're
and
paying attention in Sunday school.
Exactly. I'm sure it wasn't written for that. I mean, maybe it was. I don't know, but even in that type of a genre, there's plenty of ways to dive into those really hard questions too, and deep ones. Yeah.
Maybe we can make a remake of Noah's Ark set in space where he's got a big spaceship.
Yeah, right?
I don't know, things like that. You start running into people calling you calling it heretical and things like that.
But it's like the same thing with like The Chosen, right? I mean, that is written for exactly what it's supposed to be. And there's still people that it's like, it's not meant to replace your Bible.
No.
And so it is
No.
a form of entertainment. They're doing what they're doing, and I think they're doing a great job at it. And if it raises questions, good. Go read, go check, go compare.
That's what
it,
Dallas Jenkins says. He said, if you think
Yeah.
I'm wrong, or if I'm taking too much artistic liberty, my goal is that you open your Bible.
Yep.
Call me out on it, no problem. But if you're
Yep.
opening your Bible, then I've accomplished, what I want to accomplish. And I'm totally with you on that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we need like a biblically based Black Mirror. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, that's interesting to say that. And it's funny because like a lot of the times too, like I think about like, well, what am I writing for, right? Am I writing just for Christians? Like I should be
Right.
writing projects that are reaching people who may know nothing about it. You know what I mean? And that there's a hard line to meet in the middle there, right? Like, how do you meet in the middle to where somebody knows nothing about it, but you still want to, open those doors to them? And there's so many ways you can do that. But some people are like, yeah, but then you're writing a film about that. It's like, yeah, I'm supposed to spread it to everybody. And I think film and TV alone, it's such a strong medium that it can be so influential to people, and it's a dangerous but an awesome thing, right? Like if you use it properly, it can do so much good.
Yeah, when used for his glory, no doubt. I mean,
Yeah,
look, the
for sure.
disciples were asking Jesus the same thing. Why aren't you preaching to them? Preach, preach, preach. Why are you telling them stories? And he said it himself. He's like, because they're not going to get it. If the people who haven't been saved yet aren't going to understand it. And so you tell them stories so that they can understand a parallel logic.
And I think that's where it hit me the most was when I became a Christian and I started watching Christian films, because it was so late in my life, right? That like, I was like, I remember trying like watching a film that was like a made Christian film. Like back then I was like, I can't watch this. And it wasn't that it did anything wrong. It was just that like, I didn't understand what they were talking about. Right. And I didn't understand that just the perspective, all of it. It was another language to me. And so it was hard to really relate to. So, I've thought about that, and like, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I want to make those films that's all about glorifying God and directing people to him. But like, I remember who I'm talking to. Right. And so like, and sometimes I've thought about like, I want to make a film that is reaching people who may know nothing about it. And I don't want to talk to them in the language that they're going to forget, but I also don't want to cater. Right. I want to make sure
Right.
that everything is, sound theologically. But it's really hard to toe that line of where you're at and how to convey that message.
Yeah, it's just about telling the right story. God will
Yeah.
be glorified in the story. I'm a big proponent of when I read scripts from Christian filmmakers, it always goes on the first. Well, look, my first drafts are terrible too. So everybody's first drafts are terrible.
Yes, of course.
But you do find the most common problem of a first draft in a Christian story is that it just seeks to be a vaguely disguised sermon. And that's not what we ought to do. We don't need to be preaching sermons in our stories. We need to just tell stories, tell them realistically, tell them faithfully, and God will be glorified.
Yes.
That is awesome. Well, man, this has been a whole lot of fun. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that's burning inside of you right now, that like some advice that you could give to Christians who want to succeed in the world of film?
Oh, man. Well, we just had a meetup about this recently. It's networking, right? And I think it's super powerful. I mean, with the amount of, especially like you're talking about with AI, right? Like I get emails all day, every day from, I don't know if it's a human or a robot, right? And so if you really want to connect to people and start working with people in the film industry and television, is that you need to go find them. And so one of the biggest things that's helped me be successful in what I do is knowing people. And so, because those people, and then when you work with them, and then they're going to refer you word of mouth, right? That is gold in this industry, because when you get hired, it's because somebody trusts you, or sometimes it's if your budget's lower, whatever. But they want to know that even if your budget's lower, they can still trust you're going to get it done. And so networking, I think, is key. And it's funny, like I'm literally starting over right now with my networking. So, because now I'm networking from the Christian aspect. And so one of the things I did, I started networking out. I went and I found I knew people that worked at Kappa. I didn't know they did. And, I'm on, Faith and Family, and I'm meeting all these people, and these people are so kind and awesome and looking to help you network. One of the ladies on there, she couldn't make it to the film festival. I bought her tickets. Me and my wife went to the festival. Me and my wife met so many awesome people. Then those people were connected to this and that. And so networking, I think, is key as far as getting into the industry.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. And so make sure you guys pay attention to all of the happenings and the networks and the meetups, and hopefully keep listening to the Faith and Family Filmmaker podcast, and all that can be pretty well facilitated.
Yeah, it's been a great resource.
When we put together the meetups, we wanted to be very strategic with the approach, thinking about the obstacles. Where are those things that would actually make the greatest impact?
I just wanted to say thank you, Jacqueline. You guys having everything so organized. I went on the website last week. I was able to sign up. All the instructions worked. Everything was seamless. And I have not had an experience where it's been this seamless ever. Also, I've already met some amazing people on this, and I love the format. You teach us a little bit, and then we go into a separate group with just a few people. It takes away some of the anxiety if anybody has anxiety about speaking in a large group. And also, I've gotten to really know people beyond just that's your name and your face. And some people I knew already, which is also great, because there's so many people here from the industry that just have amazing experience in all areas. I've met writers, I've met actors, I've met producers. Today I was with somebody in a room who actually does editing, and that was such a great perspective.
Join us on Thursday mornings for our FAF Association meetings. We've got networking opportunities, masterminds, and more. Find the schedule on our homepage at faffassociation.com, or find the link in our show notes.
Well, Chris Kiefer, again, man, this has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you joining us. We definitely want to, as you kind of get involved in more and more projects, especially in the faith world, we want to have you back a little later to kind of give us an update on what's going on in your world.
Yeah, I'd love to, see how this new journey is going to take me.
Thanks for listening to the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast. If you've been enjoying this podcast, take a moment to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast player so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to support the production of this podcast, you can leave a tip at faffpodcast.com/support. Bringing filmmakers together for faith and family.